Lazy equity. Don't let your capital retire ahead of you. As a rental owner, you're probably pretty pleased. Your rents are up, your occupancy is up, cash flow is up, your equity has grown a lot. Could you do any better? Well, actually, probably so. Many rental owners are supporting their capital. Some investors are working really hard where their equity is semi-retired or maybe even comatose. The wiser policy is to insist that your capital work at least as hard as you do. Lazy equity is a problem. Many rental properties have debt that's less than half of the current value of the property. It's lazy equity. Lazy equity makes sense for people who are older than 75 or investors with substantial disability. Few viewers fit into that category. Many baby boomers have done well, have accumulated some assets, and dream about leisure in 10 or 20 years. Many have enough capital to enjoy that benefit now. Sadly, some of those investors will be dead or divorced in less than 20 years. Let me tell you a true story. Let's call my friend Bob. Recently, he realized that the property he paid $1 million for is now worth $2 million. His original down payment has grown to $1.2 million. Bob received $60,000 in cash flow, and he can't imagine being happier. Actually, Bob's capital is semi-retired. It's earning only 5% annually on the real equity. Bob could retire in a month. Instead, he fights a nasty commute and he puts up with grief at a job that's no longer any fun. What's a wiser choice? Wisdom is the ability to recognize and the inclination to choose the highest and best goal and the surest means of attaining it, so says J.I. Packer. Years ago, my wife asked, what's the purpose of the wealth if it won't let us do what we want? Suppose you were Bob. What would be a wiser choice? Insist that the capital work full-time. Bob could sell or refinance his apartments, and he could use his equity to buy a $4 million property. The bigger property would give him more tax shelter, more depreciation, tax savings. Within 6 months, Bob can have more after-tax cash flow. The extra cash flow could be used to pay off his home sooner, or he could enjoy more time with people who really matter, more involvement with family, vacations, 3-day weekends, more time with his children or grandchildren, special events. So the conclusion, Bob has choices. He could keep his $2 million complex. In the fullness of time, values will grow 50% and the $2 million will become worth $3 million. Deduct the debt at that point and his net equity could be $2.3 million. Consider his alternative. If he sold the current building or refinanced it, he could own a $4 million property. When values climb 50%, the $4 million would become a $6 million asset. Debt goes down each year. Deduct the current debt at that point, and the equity could be 3.3. So if you were Bob, would you prefer an equity of 2.3 million or 3.3 million? Smart investors keep their capital working. Don't let your equity retire ahead of you. Contact ACI to ensure that you retire before your capital does.